Good morning, early birds. Welcome to chat. Faust of the Crakeling. We're going to sit and chill for a bit, let people filter in. Give yourself a little pat on the back for being an early bird. And hello to those listening on YouTube. There were some plumbing related things that I had to handle this morning, so my breakfast is just a protein shake. Morning, Wolf. We'll get started in a couple minutes. What's the lunch plan, though? I don't know yet. I'm planning on heading up to the mountains after stream ends here, and I'm gonna stop and get some ingredients for curry when we head up there. But that's probably gonna be our dinner plans, so I don't know. I don't know what I'll do for lunch. It'll depend where I'm getting the curry ingredients. Thai red curry, I think, but we want to make like a Trini red curry, which is exciting. I've never had Trini red curry before. I want to figure out a good flatbread recipe. There's so many good ways to just like throw sauce and ingredients in bread and then just wrap that shit up and have a meal. But I want like a recipe for flatbread that I can just slap on a hot griddle. Hey Dot, good morning. The fucking 12 samosas. That's a good-ass breakfast right there. Forget that people who live near mountains, a mountain is like a fantasy concept to you, Danish. Yeah, must be rough down there in the swamps. Gonna learn how to make cornbread soon. From what I understand, cornbread ain't that tricky. But I wanna figure out, like... Oh shit, the plumber's back. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Equal parts flour and Greek yogurt makes a tolerable flatbread. See, my idea is that I want something I can just, like, flick on a grill. There's a Mexican supermarket near me that sells fucking, like, nixtamaldo. What's your chili recipe, wizard? Oh, I got a couple. I mean, obviously slow cooker. That's the way to go. I basically make a sofrito, but I also want to add, like, toasted guajillo chilies, and, what is it? Either, like, Hatch or Anaheim peppers. Like, if I'm feeling it, I might roast some fucking tomatoes and, what are they called? The pasilla peppers. And then you basically blend those into a sauce, and then that forms the base. Then obviously you need your staples. You need fucking, like, beans and corn. A little bit of lime, a little bit of sour cream. Big fan of mushrooms in chili. I can see it. Mushrooms are like flavor sponges. I think the first step to chili mastery is making chili that has no meat in it. Like making a good-ass flavorful chili with no meat. Then you can start adding meat stuff into it. That's my chili tip. I'm also pro bean. I think the humble bean is like underappreciated in how much subtlety there is. Like there are a few textures less enjoyable to me than an undercooked bean. Really not a fan of mushroom texture. It's really easy to fuck up mushrooms, right? Like if you overcook them, they turn to slime. If you undercook them, they're kind of like rubbery. Chimera, you should fuck with Duxelle. Like get some white onions and mushrooms and then chop them up super fine and then basically saute that in butter and a little bit of wine. It's one of the bases of French cooking. Say what you will about French cuisine, but they were right about cooking shit in its own juices. Feliz Filoso Viernes. Teaching yourself picadillo. I love picadillo. I'm 5 years old. Cooking with wine is also a certified French banger, and they do it right too, which is why you can't fault them for it. Is that they're really good at it? Like they know. They were right about using wine to deglaze shit, just like cooking shit so it like sticks to the bottom of the pan, and then using wine to like get all that shit off and then cook it down into a sauce. That's delicious. That's great. It's the thing I've noticed about Malaysian cooking is they're like you'd never really cook anything in its own juices, but you're always like saving the juices and like, I don't know, dross from some cooking processes and then like re-adding it later in some interesting way. Your big food thing is that you're opposed to savory, slimy foods. Dross is a great word. What's a savory, slimy food? I guess there's a lot of meat dishes that are like savory, slimy foods. Like a good chicken tortilla soup is a little bit slimy. Like a fat, heavy soup. Fat, heavy winter soups. I kind of get that, though. Like, there's some shit in like southern Chinese seafood that like does not fuck with my palate texturally. Where they've gotten like... Ooh, eggplant parm. That's a good example. Yeah. Soft boiled... Well, savory is like salty and meaty. Soft boiled eggs is a good example. Like, eggs are basically an umami bomb. Had beef burgundy where the meat stayed too long and it was kind of slimy. Yeah. There is a sour spot where it's like if you cook meat too long, too hot, it just turns into slop. But not like good slop like carnitas. What's the difference between chili and stew, or is it a subset of stew? I'm not entirely sure what the difference between... Here, let me look this shit up, actually. Main difference between stew and soup are liquid content, ingredient size, and cooking method. See if I can't find like a... Okay, it seems like soup is mainly like broth based, but if it's got big chunks floating in it, it's a stew. Yeah, I think chili is a type of stew. But vegetarian chili is stew as well, yeah. I fuck with jam or a sweet porridge, but not any other slimes. Slimes are pretty diverse, yeah. Stew is a colloid. But then, like, tomato soup, that's a soup. Now, Octavian soup, what's a colloid? Let me look this shit up. A mixture where tiny particles are dispersed evenly throughout another substance, appearing homogeneous to the naked eye, but with particles large enough to scatter light. Seems like maybe an over-application of some terminology here. A soup is not a slime. Yeah, most soups are not slime, but I think soups can have slime components. Like the soft-boiled egg in ramen. Or if you make chicken tortilla soup with the chicken skin on. Colloids are like jello. It seems like a science term, yeah. I know the culinary term for shit suspended in jello is a gelée. One of the worst things that people have ever figured out how to eat. Is chowder soup or stew? I think chowder's... I think chowder can be either, actually. Because I think, like, you can have clam chowder with some pretty big chunks of clam in it. Chowder is depressing. A lot of chowder is depressing. I've had some good-ass chowder before. I've had some, like... It's that fucking post where it's like how it looks and feels to eat beef stew. I've had chowder that makes me feel like that, but I've also seen, like... I think I was talking about this with James, like... The recipe for, like, Maryland chowder is just, like, clam chowder with ketchup in it or some shit. The chowder defender has logged on. I don't have strong opinions on chowder. I'm not, like, defending it. I think it's okay. It's, like, it's rare that I go to a restaurant and see chowder on the menu, and I'm like, I have to pick this over all the other options. But I'm not anti-chowder. No, you are? You're the chowder defender? You're the certified chowder defender? Chili is a stew unless it's Cincinnati chili, which is actually a bolognese. But itself might be another subset of stew. Well, bolognese is derived from soup, right? Like, that's where like, marinara sauce comes from and shit. Is, like... It used to be a kind of, like, tomato soup that Italian immigrants would make, and then people were like, what if we cook this down a little more and then put it in pasta? Traditional Christmas dessert is rice porridge, but people wanted a fancy version, so they invented a faux French version. Okay, well, you're Danish. Like, you can throw a rock at France from Denmark. And also, that's European tradition. It's just like, I want a fancy version of this. Let's just do it, but a little French. That's pretty normal. Denmark is the culinary strait where the Germanic meets the Scandinavian. So you've got, like, fucking tasty buns and hot mustards, but also, like, I don't know, dried fish. A lot of the best cooking comes from looking at your neighbor's sheet. Yeah, cuisine is a slot. It breeds with itself. Eastern European cooking is also quite nice. I feel like more people should embrace lard. Lard is pretty damn good. I also fuck with, like, just raw shaved red onion. Personally a big fan of ghee. It's low-key the superior butter. Like, in a lot of situations, I think it's low-key the superior butter. I think, like, if you're making a lot of sauces, I think butter with milk solids. Is that ghoul butter? No, it's Indian butter. It's clarified Indian butter. It's usually stored in a liquid form. You can't stand the smell of ghee? It's ghee! What do you mean you can't stand the smell of it? It just smells like butter. Got a big jar of ghee in the fridge. You know that's right, buddy. Up top. Put her there. I woke up with a butter. I woke up with a milk product. That's true. That's true. The epitome of slop food in French culture was a forum post entitled La bouille qui nourrit, nourishing slop, which was like dog food with ketchup and yogurt. Hey, Riley. Ketchup and yogurt makes sense that people would combine that. I just don't like ketchup, I guess. Wouldn't vinegar and yogurt, like, curdle something weird? I don't know. Probably not, right? You can, like, I don't know. That's probably fine. Ghee will absorb odors if you leave it uncovered. I didn't know that. Not if you eat it fast enough. Yogurt is also something I've been fucking with more. Excellent base for a lot of different sauces and whatnot. Yogurt doesn't really curdle usually. Oh, my friend, I have seen it curdle extremely fast with my additions of lime juice. Are you from the US? I hear US ketchup is foul. I mean, I am, but like a lot of US ketchup, like Heinz ketchup, is just like, I don't know, it's just like very astringent. Turkish cooking is banger on banger. Like, the whole Mediterranean has, like, certified bangers. Hello, world's smallest creature. Use yogurt or skyr to make dips. Yup. That's the play. That's the fucking play. Yeah, it's like a sweet vinegar sauce. It doesn't, like, the tomatoes are, like, secondary. The tomatoes are, like, a conveyance method for the acid. Huge blobs of yogurt on curry. That's true. It's the same as like adding a little bit of sour cream to a spicy chili. Fat cuts heat. People are like, oh, the Europeans are so weird for like putting mayo on fries. It's like, that makes sense. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to put on fries, as far as I'm concerned. Personally, I'm a ranch dressing on fries head. Yeah, aioli is a fantastic thing to dip fries in, and that's just mayonnaise and a little bit of specific kind of mustard. I like a good ranch dressing, though. It's a little more complex. Vinegar on fries? I need something else beyond my vinegar. I need, like... I don't know. It's like vinegar's not enough. Ranch is nice. Gotta hand it to USians on that one. I believe it's actually Tex-Mex cuisine. I believe ranch is like a, that's like a mestizo cuisine or something. Malt vinegar, brown sugar on fries. I fuck with that. Yeah, I could see that. The fries would need to be nice and crispy, though. I need this Venato Prime blade. Ranch has a pretty Slavic flavor profile. It does. It does. It likes the like fatty white sauce with herbs suspended in it. Yup, Zatar, also an excellent choice. Also an excellent choice. Ugh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the philosophy. I have been revisiting my Jewish mysticism. Oh, good question right off the bat. Do you think Ascent Lit was like escapism from fuck-ass hope-crushing empire-dominated reality? That is a good-ass question. I think it depends. I think... Like, okay, the real core of Western Ascent literature is shit like the Hechelo and Merkava mysticism. Specifically the... Oh, fuck, I'm gonna forget which one is which. It's the Palaces literature, which is the Hechelo literature. That's the one where you're ascending up through the treasury houses of God. That has its roots, in my opinion, in, like, clearly a reaction to, like, Greco-Roman mystical traditions, but also the philosophical milieu of Judaism at the time was very much concerned with, like, the distance between the God that wanders in the cool of the evening in the Garden of Eden and, like, the all-encompassing transcendent God that exists in all places. I think it exists as, like... They were trying to tackle, like, okay, how do we get from one to the other, but not directly, I'm not sure. Because, like, serious philosophical meditations on that question didn't really arise until, like, the 11th-ish century. The thing that I've been interested in recently, and I think the gap in my knowledge of the breadth of Jewish history is, like, the fucking Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. Streamer skillfully parries yes or no question. I mean, it's complicated. There's nuance, my friend. Is that like the distinction between Trinity figures? There are interpretations of the Trinity that try to answer that same philosophical question. Because, like, the Christian response in, like, high medieval Christianity, if you Trinity comes from the Amblicus, yeah, but the interpretations of how the Trinity fits into the transcendence v emanation debate within Christianity is Summa Theologia. That's and to oversimplify Aquinas' argument, it's basically like God the Father is the transcendent one, Jesus is the eminent one, and the space in between is the Holy Spirit, and it's a capital M mystery of Christ. Oh, I have mail. Oh, it's Barrow. Barrow here. Holy Spirit waste bin taxon. Yup. That shows up a lot. Christians love to use the Holy Spirit as the wastebasket taxon. It's like, how does this shit work? I don't know. It's the Holy Spirit, and it's a mystery. No, I'm out of weapon slots. Okay. It's Ac Vasto? Yes. Get cooking. Sorry, doing Warframe stuff. Baro Katir is Baro Kahir. That's true. It's kind of what I meant. Makes sense. Like, even if the debate already existed before, I figured later Christians would probably try to fit their paradigm into it. Well, it's a question that shows up pretty early in Judaism and, like, transfers over to Christianity. It's just like, there's a transcendent God and there's an immanent God. But the Jewish mystics that started really digging into the question didn't really show up until, like, that's like the pre-Kabbalah era. That's the, what are they called? I was just reading Sholom's shit about this. It's the Circle of the Unique Cherub, or the Circle of the Special Cherub. It was like the group of pre-Kabbalistic rabbis in Europe that were thinking about this shit. And they were kind of dualists. They were like, maybe multiple divinities can exist in heaven, like Hashem has an inner and an outer nature, which was kind of inspired by the fucking, the Enoch literature. Like the Sufi illuminationist idea that about the atom that is the isthmus between the immanent and transcendent God. Yup! We love ourselves some Ismaili interpretations of emanationist theology. The space in between got Iamblichus and Proclus and the Chaldean Hecate, so the Mormon books are right about the Holy Ghost being a woman. Well, the Holy Ghost in its in its aspect as a presence on Earth is often interpreted as female within Jewish literature. Thought you meant duelists for a second. Like, yeah, they were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! They had dual discs and everything. Need to reread your Sholem books. He's good. He's a very solid writer. Clearly has, like, a lot of affection for what he's writing about. Although he is really into, like, there are several points in, what the fuck is his book called? His, like, history of Jewish mysticism, where he's like, okay, there's despite the fact that Jewish history is generally, like, extremely well recorded, there are some ostensible dark ages in Jewish history. Like, there's a lot of points where a lot of things are changing rapidly, things aren't necessarily getting written down, and, like, Judaism is getting fairly diverse, and so there's a lot of, like, people not necessarily recording the history as rigorously as they might, and Sholem is very hesitant to admit that Jews were interacting with other cultures and learning from them. Like, he makes this argument about the existence of, like, that, like, the Enoch literature was the result of a -1 for the term Dark Ages. Not my term. Take it up with Sholem. He uses the fucking term. Take it up with the most recently greatest scholar of Jewish history. Not my problem. You were flaming him. Okay, fine. Just don't give me heat when you're cooking, okay? I'm just the messenger. Fucking, he loves claiming that is like, oh, the Enoch literature is evidence of, like, a Jewish Gnosticism that existed alongside the Christian Gnosticism. I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy, the Christians were just kind of cooking with Gnosticism. Even if it was a little, like, anti-Semitic, they were kind of cooking with it. Like, there's a lot of anti-Semitic implications within Gnosticism, but, like, that's neither here nor there. A lot of Jews were having problems with Judaism at the same time. But it's like, the Gnostics were Christians. Like, come on, man. Like, you can theorize about a theoretical Jewish Gnosticism all you like, but the evidence for that is very circumspect, we'll say. We'll say it's like I think, I think the Enoch literature is evidence of a Jewish Gnosticism, and my evidence for that is that the Enoch literature is kind of Gnostic. It's like, oh, well, I don't know about that. There's also, like, a weird period from the 7th to 9th centuries that I'm getting increasingly interested in regards to Jewish history, where, like, you've got a pretty diverse diaspora. You've got, like, centers of Jewish intellectualism in, like, North Africa, the Levant, Spain, Germany, even though they weren't called that shit yet. And the interesting thing to me is that there's a point where suddenly every center of Jewish intellectuals starts writing about the Sefer Yetzirah. And that shit's interesting. Because, okay. Do I need to explain what the Sefer Yetzirah is? that was you, World's Smallest Creature. You were going around to early medieval centers of Jewish intellectualism and telling them about the Sefer Yetzirah, or Sefer Yetzirah, the Golem's book. True, yes, it's the original Golem's book, but not the Golem of Prague book. It's the one where we get the, like, interpretation of, like, that's where we get the whole thing with, like, Jewish literature considers an unborn child a golem. It's like a non-souled being, or an incomplete being. You can't even spell that? Okay. Book of pre-Kabbalistic Jewish mysticism. Like, okay, you know how a lot of Jewish mysticism is, like, all about sacred language? God spoke the world into being, and therefore the world is fundamentally linguistic in nature, and by speaking and creating through speech, we are becoming holy by emulating God. Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Formation, is that, but for math. I'm very like, that's a vulgar way of putting it, but it's like, it's a mathematical interpretation of Jewish scripture, and like what math means to Jewish scripture, and what that shows up as in Sefer Yetzirah is like, there's a quote where it's like, every day this rabbi used Sefer Yetzirah, like used formation to make a fattened calf and eat it. Like, he was eating mutton every day because he was using the secrets of formation to, like, speak calves into being so that he could have them for a yummy lunch. Does it put math in the creation myth? Yeah, the Sefer Yetzirah, I believe, is the one that's obsessed with the Genesis myth. It's like a reinterpretation of the Genesis myth, where it's like, it's not just manifesting. It's not manifesting. It's like, fucking thank God. There we go. It's not manifesting. Manifesting is like a new thought thing. Manifesting is like, if I believe that I will get a sandwich hard enough, a sandwich will arrive in my life. It's not in... It's literally power word calf. Slowly raises a sign that says Pythagoreanism. There is certainly some Neo-Pythagoreanism in there somewhere. Yeah, it's literally power word cow. Like, power word summon cow. Power word summon... But it requires understanding, like, this mystical understanding of Torah, right? Through Sefer Yetzirah. And what's kind of crazy about that is that it's like, people don't really talk about this, but the Jewish canon is open. Like, Christian canon is, like, pretty sealed. Islamic canon is certainly sealed, certainly closed. But Jewish canon's pretty open. So you can just kind of say shit, like attribute some commentary on a commentary to an ancient and venerated rabbi, and it can kind of be accepted as like, yeah, this is real. We're just gonna like put this in Judaism. We've gotten so much new math since the last Pythagorean movement. We need a neo-Pythagorean movement. I mean, Pythagoreanism kind of won. Like, it's a pretty common idea these days that, like, the world is fundamentally made of mathematics. Like, it's not just that mathematics describes the universe, but the universe is, its nature is itself mathematic in some way. Like, its inherent essence is mathematic. And that's fucking Pythagoreanism. Like, they won. Pythagoreanism cultural victory. Sorry, I'm trying to platform and read chat at the same time. It's kind of like saying a complicated differential equation out loud. I don't want to overstate my understanding of Sefer Yetzirah. The thing that I find, I'm not entirely sure what is happening metaphysically. Like, I'm not entirely sure what a student of Sefer Yetzirah would, like, how they would conceptualize performing the operations in the book. Like, I can't speak on that, but I can certainly speak on its... I can certainly speak on its, like, place in history. Like, I am a historical materialist, as I am. So, the interesting thing about Sefer Yetzirah to me is that it showed up in, like, 5 different places in the early medieval era, and it seems like it was completely independent. Like, people in Jews in North Africa, Jews in Spain, Jews in Germany, all started writing about Sefer Yetzirah at the same time. And there's an enormous amount of commentaries on this. Like, I was watching a Dr. Sledge seminar, and he said, like, it's probably the second most commentated text after the Bible. And then he was like, he walked that back, where he was like, I can't prove that, but it's certainly... like, there's some truth to that. Like, it's one of the most commentated texts in Jewish history, and we don't know why it suddenly became popular in the 8th century. That's fucking crazy to me. That's really interesting. And it makes me wonder why these certain types of mysticism occur in historical moments. Like, we've been talking a lot about Tumblr. I've been getting questions about, like, why theology around end times keeps showing up. Plato and Aristotle have to be in there too, right? In the sense that they're kind of in everything. We're talking about the Zohar? No, we're talking about Sefer Yetzirah, the 9th century book, not the 13th century one. Burger has been obliterated. Good job, soldier. We've been talking a lot about, like, why apocalyptic literature shows up, and it's usually because, like, people feel like the world is so... Historically, people feel like the world is so shitty and so corrupt that it has to end soon. That, like, the center cannot hold, and the something must happen that will either, like, purify the world through violence, or, like, some messianic purifying force will arrive to set the world right. And it makes me wonder why, like, why does some shit like Sefer Yetzirah show up? Like, what's with this weird, like, kind of Judeo-Neo-Pythagorean mysticism shows up? Like, what was happening in Jewish society at the time that made this a useful thing to talk about and think about? The other thing about Sefer Yetzirah is that it's short as hell. Like, it's tiny. It's so... Sefer Yetzirah is so small, it was commonly printed as an amulet and worn around the neck. And so it's like, for a text that is ostensibly so small, and yet so, like, it has so many fucking... like, Sefer Yetzirah has so many commentaries on it that it basically spawned the intellectual conversations that would become Kabbalah. You know, the Sefer Zohar, the the last existing book that was universally accepted into Jewish canon. Like, the commentaries on Sefer Yetzirah are what allowed Kabbalah to exist. So what prompted that shit? What was happening in Jewish history that made it so important to people? Because the other thing that fucking pisses me off is that, like, its closest comparison in my mind is obviously fucking Neo-Pythagorean literature, but we don't know why that showed up. Maybe these kind of dense texts emerge from, like, close-knit, interconnected communities of scholars. I mean, yeah, but that's where all important intellectual texts show up, right? Like, you don't get important intellectual texts unless you have, like, a center of intellectual power. The unique thing about Sefer Yetzirah is that it occurred in, like, 5 places independent of each other. Maybe. We don't know. Maybe there was a fucking... You know, maybe there was a Jewish Hermes going around telling people about Sefer Yetzirah that history is simply forgotten. We don't know. That's what's making me crazy. Is there a good free version online somewhere? Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure you can find it on a web page. I know I have at least one. I don't know. Yeah, as in Trismegistus. Maybe there was like a Jewish Trismegistus traveling around the world and sharing the knowledge of Sefer Yetzirah. I mean, what is Hermes but a cracked mailman? Yeah, door-to-door Yetzirah merchant. Well, because, like, okay, the reason that this ties into the Zohar is that the Zohar is like kind of doing Sefer Yetzirah, but for language. It's like an even more intense application of, like, mysticism regarding the Hebrew language to Judaism. What is Yetzirah? Sefer means book of, and Yetzirah means formation, as in, like, the act of forming. It's actually grammatically incorrect for me to call it the Sefer Yetzirah. It's just Sefer Yetzirah. Book of Formant. Exactly. Yeah, Book of... okay, I've heard some debate that maybe Book of Creation is like not the most accurate translation. It's more like the book of shaping something that already exists. Although I can't speak on that. Just some food for thought. Don't quote me on that. Kind of like a cookbook. Book of sculpting. That's more my understanding of it. But again, don't quote me on that. I'm not an expert on, like, I can't fucking read High Medieval Hebrew. Sounds like an over-serious name for instructions. Like, Book of Forming is, like, a pretty normal name. The fun, overly serious names from that period are all the shit happening in the late Islamic Golden Age, where it was, like, the Secret Book of Secrets, which is different than the Book of Secrets. And different than the Secret of Secrets. All of those are different texts. I was also, as I've been thinking about this, like, and all of them are pseudo-Aristotle. Yeah, exactly. The unauthorized Book of Secrets. The Book of Secrets uncancelled. That's my pseudo-Aristotelian Netflix special. We need to agree on ID numbers for something. The Secret Book of Secrets. The Secret Book of Secrets might still exist, but we don't know of its existence. Exactly. Oh, wait. Before I do this, I want to put that Venado into oven. Go. The other one we wanted is Vadaraya. Which philosopher do you think would be most likely to get canceled on Twitter? There's a lot of philosophers that say some pretty crazy fuck shit. Do I have a Vadaraya blueprint? When you get the Zeto... Zeto? I don't know what that is. Heidegger? I mean, definitely Heidegger. I mean, Heidegger... Well, Heidegger would kind of do numbers on Twitter these days. Yeah, Paracelsus would just be a... I mean, Paracelsus would go on Rogan. Do I have a Vadaraya? Yes, I do. Okay, I need the barrel and the receiver. Okay, perfect. Who was the Rogan of ancient mysticism? That's hard, because Rogan was not... Like, okay, I think Rogan's most important quality is that he's a gullible idiot. Who would do well? Who's a good poster? I think Crowley would kind of be a human pet guy type. I think he would do numbers on Twitter, partially because he, like... Crowley would want to be a poster, but he wouldn't, like... I think Crowley would kind of have, like, a bit of that Trump energy, where it's like, he's funniest when he's not trying to be funny. But it's like, he had some shit that was kind of try hard, but then every once in a while, he would just, like, hit you with some fire. Like, if Crowley had a Twitter, he would have at least 3 or 4, like, very upset with the people at Diet Coke. Oh, well, I'm going to keep drinking that shit. He'd definitely put out some, like, S-class bangers. But it would be when he was... It would only be when he's in the state of no mind. If Crowley ever tried to put out a banger, it wouldn't work. They would end up like his poems trying to, like... That were, like, doing tsundere shock horror shit for Oscar Wilde. Where it's just like, what if Christ drank piss and ate shit and he was a corpse and I had sex with him? It's like, alright, buddy, calm down. Like, we get it, you're edgy. One of the most interesting things about Cybersmith is that he exists in his own, like, world. Like, his perception of the world is clearly not normal. Socrates would not be a Charlie Kirk situation. You're not giving Socrates enough credit. Yay! The other thing I've been thinking about in regards to Ascent literature is, like... Oh, sorry, hang on. The other thing I've been thinking about in regards to Ascent literature is I want to revisit... There's a book on my research library called... I believe it's called The Alchemy of Nine Dimensions by Barbara Hann Clow. And it's where modern, like, techno new age bitches get their, like, this concept of, like, ascending up through different dimensions and shit. And it clearly has some structural similarities to Ascent literature like the Hechelo. And I want to see if I can't revisit the Hechelo literature, and then revisit Alchemy of Nine Dimensions, and see what wisdom I can pull from that. Is Flatland Ascent literature? I don't think so. Like, there isn't a sense of, like a graduated system where if you pass tests, you gain access to deeper inner wisdom or something. Is that like the Void Goddess stuff? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that is. Yeah, Flatland is an allegory. Flatland has been an allegory for some time now. Nietzsche's smarter than Cybersmith. Okay. If you're a grifter, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go, like, get some good, like, historical materialist understanding of Jewish ascent literature and how it's like influenced things up through history, and then revisit Barbara Hand Clow and then reapply those lessons to her mythology, right? So that way you can sell something to, like, post-QAnon moms that has a little bit of historical rigor. And you can get them, like, I don't know, forming, like, a lay priesthood or something and causing even more problems than they already do. Void Goddess is like a less wrong tech mysticism. I have such a hard time caring about that less wrong shit. Like, so many people talk about how they're the defining cult of the age. Like, it's this, like... It's like, they're literally an apocalyptic, like, logic cult. I was like, there's, like, 4 of them. They're not that important. Like... Fucking Behind the Bastards made a series on them, and now everyone who listens to podcasts is like, this is actually the key that solves all the modern political turmoil, and they're wrong and stupid. The Zhizh event could have happened at literally any point in history. The Zhizh event happens, like, every 4 years. The people in question are simply not transgender. What is Zhizh? Don't fucking worry about it. It's like, there's a group of vegan less wrongers who, like went crazy and started a cult and got arrested trying to cross into Canada where they shot someone. It's Zizans or Zizans? I have no idea. What is a less wronger? Group of people on, like, forums in the early 2000s. Like, okay, imagine if a bunch of, like, proto-Redditors tried to, like, redo philosophy from first principles, which is interesting. It's not a bad thing. But a lot of them became, like, they're okay, it's like a stupid person's smart people movement. Where it's like, if you're kind of an idiot who thinks that, like, AI is going to take over the world because you read too much science fiction as a teenager, you're, like, really into this. And so a lot of people that were, like, into this shit in their teens call themselves, like, rationalist adjacent now because they're kind of embarrassed about being associated with this, because, yeah, it's like a fundamentally kind of teenaged thing to be into. They're not morons, they're just, like, teenagers. It's like, okay, you know how every brony grew up to be, like, either a Nazi or, like, a transgender EDM artist? Every less wronger grew up to either be, like, into crypto, or they're, like, the proper, they've eventually arrived at the proper pseudo-intellectual milieu for being in your early 20s, which is getting annoying about Hegel. No, they're not into Elon Musk. That's not a less wronger thing. That's later. They stem out of the early 2010. They're also related to the early 2010s, like new atheist movement. There's some overlap there, and Yeah, it's Rocco's Basilisk, but even that, like Rocco's Basilisk is honestly like one of the least interesting ideas that the rationalists have, but also it's like their actual philosophy is kind of stupid. Like, okay, the way you check your math in, like, okay, you know how like when you're doing physics, you need to like check your math sometimes and be like, oh, for this theory to be right, I would need to fit something with the force of like 1,000,000 atomic bombs into the size of a pea. So obviously, like, I'm doing something wrong here. The ethical philosophy version of that is like anything in which you're like, maybe it's okay if we exterminate every human on Earth. Like, they would just like routinely run into problems like that because they like lacked a dialectic method, or like they had a very strange like slapdash methodology that regularly led them to like extreme philosophical conundrums, which is fun if you're into like a history of science type thing, but it's like I find it largely kind of boring to read. Elon Musk doesn't believe in anything. Like, he doesn't, like, he's just a rich guy. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a fuck. Do you think Ascent literature fell away in popularity or just changed form? It changed form. Like, I mean, look at the fucking Zohar. The Zohar is basically just like, how do we incorporate the contradictions of, it's like, okay, there's all this, like, Jewish mystical literature that pretty significantly conflicts with mainstream interpretations of the Torah, and oh fuck, I'm gonna sneeze. There's all this Jewish mystical literature that is like beloved within Jewish history. Shit like the Merkava and Hekalo literature and the Sefer Yetzirah. And the read that I always get of the Zohar is like, let's syncretize all of these disparate elements of Jewish mysticism and systematize them in a way so that you can fit them into our interpretation of the Torah. That's always how I've seen that shit. Yeah, shit. And the other thing is that fucking thing I learned rereading my freaking Sholem was fucking Maimonides spends an enormous amount of time responding to commentaries on Sefer Yetzirah, which kind of cemented the place of Sefer Yetzirah as an important part of Jewish history, thus shaping the overall shape of Judaism. Like, so now if it's like, okay, if you're gonna respond to something Maimonides said, and he's like universally beloved and considered like the Jewish philosopher of the early medieval period, or high medieval period, I guess. If you're going to respond to him, you are fundamentally responding to somebody who has thought a lot about and has integrated his thoughts on Sefer Yetzirah into Judaism. Also, is that where Sephiroth comes from? Sephiroth comes from the Zohar. That's from Kabbalah. Because, okay, the problem of, like, how is God both transcendent and immanent? There's an infinite transcendent being that eclipses the whole universe. You know, the whole of the world is within this frog, and this frog is God. Versus the eminent God that wanders in the cool of the evening in the Garden of Eden. You know, what is the distance between a finite thing and an infinite thing? Well, it has to be infinite, so how does God get from one to the other? He steps down in some way. We've talked before about, like, there's all sorts of metaphors of, like, an infinite series of candles lighting each other, or an infinite series of wine glasses pouring into the other, or an infinitely tall fountain. Yeah, I said frog. You guys never heard that? That's a Hindu thing. That's one of their descriptions of Brahma, where it's like, or Brahman. The whole of the universe is contained within this frog, and this frog is God. So they were the Kabbalists were like, okay, there's an infinite series of candles lighting each other, and that's how God goes from infinite to finite. But there are major steps on the way, and the Sefer Yetzirah, like, you know, there's decimals. It's Sefer Yetzirah is made of 10 numbers, so therefore, the steps between the important steps between the infinite and the finite, there's 10 of them, and they're arranged in a sort of tree, and that's what the Sefer are. Is that why Homestuck had a frog? I don't know. I've never read Homestuck. Don't mention it in my chat. Christian voice. It's almost like there's some kind of God who's several persons at once. Neat. The Christians had the Trinity well before all of this. Like Pythagoras, the divine Tetrarchus. Exactly! Good fucking pull, Ariel. No, this entire doctrine is probably influenced by the Tetrarchus. Like, the first instance of this doctrine is probably the Tetrarchus. Is it Tetrarchus or Tetractus? I don't know. I need to work on my... What is the Tetrarchus? Okay. So the Pythagoreans were really into... I mean, like, okay. The dismissive way of describing them is that they're a math cult, right? They believe that the world was fundamentally mathematic in nature, and that geometry was the secret sauce that keeps the world together. And therefore, an understanding of geometry, understand geometry, understand the world. And they had an idea that, like, so there was a first thing in the universe. There was a sort of single undivided whole, a monad, which then through self-division became two, and then those two things bred together and created a third thing. And this entire process is replicated in the procession of the numbers from 1 to 10. You know, 1 creates 2, which creates 3, which creates 4, all the way to 10, all the way up to 10. And that process is the fundamental cycle of the entire universe. Like, everything, all existence, all creation, persistence, and destruction can be modeled through the procession from 1 to 9. And there is a symbol representing this. It sort of looks like a triangle with 3 tiers and dots connecting the smaller triangles within it. That is representative of this process, the Tetrarchus. It's one of the oldest holy symbols in... I think it is the oldest Western holy symbol. Like, if you want to talk about, like, Western esotericism as, like, the intersection of Jewish thought and Greek philosophy, it is the oldest occult symbol in all of Western esotericism. Math cult sounds fun. Math cult does... It is fun. It'd be fun. Yes, the annoying way to describe it is that it kind of looks like a Triforce with an extra tier. Just normal-ass math. Well, it's, like, important math. One can use normal-ass math to describe the whole of God. And isn't that fun? We should start a trigonometry cult? You know, we should! Let's be bad. Let's start a trigonometry cult. Why not? everything constantly cannibalizes everything that came before it. Yeah, we know, buddy. You said no cults? I can hang out with you guys. Don't get to join. This one's just for me and Wolf. You guys aren't invited. Can we be normal about beings in the trigonometry cult? Maybe. We haven't decided yet. Fuck! Shit! You never get invited to fun cults. Most cults, from my understanding, were not very fun. Usually, like, want you to do a bunch of shit. I've been having fun with Valkyr, if you haven't noticed. Yeah, cults have so much fucking homework. It's crazy. Fun cult combo interrupted by KFC. Oh no! Well, hey, if you don't want to see ads, I mean, you can get an ad block. I also need to figure out how to, like, schedule that shit. Jamie has been busy. Jamie's learning game development and has been very busy. We will figure it out, don't worry. Twitch incorporates the ads directly into the stream. I've heard that there are some workarounds, but I don't know what they are, so. Or, if you're feeling generous, you could subscribe or gift someone a subscription. Help support the stream. I rely on your donations from you wonderful people are my main source of income, so I would not say no to any support. No pressure, though. Yeah, it's my understanding that there's some way on Firefox. Oh, also, everyone, I think I've decided on, as some of you might know, I'm having a ritual sword made, and I think, how is the Freemason % Patreon drive? Sorry to interrupt that. Speaking of, how is the Freemason Patreon drive? We are a little under halfway there. Gaining new patrons for the Patreon is a slow process, but I appreciate everyone who's been joining. Yes, May bought us that ritual sword. And I think I've finally figured out what I want the inscription to be. There's a passage from the Proem of Parmenides. Quote, "When the daughters of the sun, hastening to convey me into the light, threw back their veils from their faces and left the abode of night." What rituals do you use a sword in? A lot of them. It's one of the 4 fundamental tools of Western esotericism, my friend. It is discernment, that which cuts the is from the ought. I know. I think I've decided on this one. I want it in the Greek. I've been trying to figure out what it is. What are the other 3? Easy. Staves, cups, and coins. That's a long-ass inscription. I want to cut it down. I can cut it down. The important thing is that I want a mention of the abode of night. Yeah, tarot.
My latest safari in the void has yielded spectacular finds. Unique items with a tenor of distinction.
All right, let's go gambling.
If you like that, come back next time I'm in the relay.
Boo.
Extra special for you.
Nothing terribly interesting to me. Oh, new weapons. Oh, hey, it's about time for a break. Hey, everyone. Get yourselves a stretch, get some water, stand up. We're going to take a quick break. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Did you have a nice break? Let's see, name. Do you know about anything about the history of dowsers? I don't really think so. I know some anecdotes, but nothing like a history. They are odd. Hmm. Well, as the ritual sword nears its completion, I've been thinking. I think it would be fun. I'm gonna, I've got some friends who are occultists. I want to devise a ritual. I want to devise a ritual that will allow the sword to name itself. I'm not sure. I have some ideas. Not sure entirely what that would mean at the moment, but it's an idea.
An excellent choice. Be sure to visit again when I have new finds.
I have some ideas for a name, but I think given the specifications of the object that I have commissioned here, it's obviously going to be some sort of ensouled object. And I think it would be fun if I could figure out a way to allow it to name itself. Whose soul are you putting into it? No, it's going to have its own soul. May, I was going to, I was going to confer with you and Riley on this. I've been thinking, I may have an inn. I have a location planned for where I would perform it. Can souls just be created like that? I mean, fucking souls are everywhere, dog. And talk about swords. They're like fucking, I don't know, they're like a pile of dookie for flies when it comes to souls. Crossfire, rescue, void flood, defense. Okay, we'll wait a bit. Just kind of scoop them up out of nothing. Everything has a soul. Or, to put it more correctly, there is one soul and it is all. Take a look at the Nabarus stuff. I haven't. I should, though. That's a good pick. Not in the sense that it's haunted, but in the sense that the sword already has a soul, and I'm simply giving it shape. I'm allowing it to take more shape. Yeah, it's like the One Electron universe. There's a world soul. Like, if souls are a thing that you consider to be an important substrate of the universe, then there's only one of them. There's no difference between any of them. Parity is itself an illusion. All things are simply aspects of Brahma. Yeah. Thoth Pig Thursday. Thoth Pig Thursday. Hi, Val. Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, I don't know. I have some ideas. I'm not entirely sure where I want to take them at the moment, but I want the sword to be able to name itself. I want to do something that will allow it to name itself. Although I do have some ideas for names. But I think the little critter deserves a chance. Just got up. There was a VidoTube update, so I'm exploring new nodes. Neato. I don't know what that is. Are you doing a sword naming ritual stream, or is that more of a private thing? I mean, I'm probably going to do it on a mountain out in the desert, so it'd be pretty difficult to name the sword here. Drop the sword through a big Plinko machine.
Our position has been compromised. Defend the cargo until reinforcements arrive.
Yeah, like a pendulum method. Something along those lines. You know, finding a tree to hang it from. What kind of sword? I believe it's a hand and a half sword. It's a bastard sword.
A fisher. Defend yourself and use reactant to open relics.
Yeah, I don't have German money. Listen, once this sword gets a name, I will be showing it off on stream. Like, I will not be private about how cool this fucking thing is going to be. Thank you very much. It will get shown off. I would also watch a stream where Germa became a cave mystic. I think that'd be a good idea. That's good content right there. Exactly. Who would want to be private about a sword, especially like a specially made ritual sword? I've already requested that it contain at least 6 of the 7 planetary metals, which I believe is possible.
Your mission and we'll take a look inside.
If I wanted to be discreet, I would get a dagger. Precisely. Oh wait, no, I don't want to do hysteria. Just want normal melee damage. Who is making your ritual sword? Wolf in chat is making it. Ink and Teeth. Very excited for it. What type of sword? Bastard sword. Believe I've said that. Crowley had some misses, but the belief that all women should be wearing swords is a home run. Exactly. The only planetary metal that we can't include is mercury, and I think that's okay. I don't want to get myself heavy metal poisoning. Yeah, I don't... but it's like... Mercury is also the only planetary metal that I could conceivably leave out for magic reasons. When are you going to commission your ritual cup? I would be lying if I said I didn't consider it. I need to find a whitesmith to make me a goblet. Doesn't want a cursed blade. I'm sorry, okay? Puts my hands up in exasperation. I don't want heavy metal poisoning. Sue me. You are the Mercury. Exactly. See, you get it. Mysticism is comprehensible to other mystics. Dog is a whitesmith? No, dog is a blacksmith. I need to find a whitesmith. I got the Alkahest streaming over here. Or it will be, hopefully. I also might potentially have an in on some recovered Joshua Tree wood, which I think would be if I can get it ethically. I don't want to like... I know that they're like effectively living fossils and are a protected species, so I would want to make... I would want 100% sure that I could gather it ethically. But I think even just like a dice-sized strip of Joshua Tree wood would make an excellent little totem for the sword. This place makes you feel smart. Good. Yeah, we're learning. We're learning shit. I think there are rules about collecting Joshua Tree wood. However, commission some tinsmiths at Colonial Williamsburg. I'd want it to be somebody who I know, you know?
That's the last of them. Objective is secure.
Hi, darling. You gonna go sit on the balcony? Okay. Go girl. Miss Meckfield has been recently switched to wet food. I was worried that she was not eating. And she got a fancy new cat tree. So she has a little basket by the window that she likes to sleep in now. I don't know if I would want a Joshua Tree staff, though. I would... I don't know. The idea with this sword is that I want elements of it to represent or have a connection to the place on Earth that I consider my home, which is the Mojave Desert. So I feel like getting something unique from that region, like something important from that region, would be appropriate. There will be pictures of the sword, don't worry. And Joshua trees feel particularly resonant. Coolest cup you ever saw was a Catholic chalice made of the melted down silver jewelry of victims of World War II bombings in the parish. That's pretty metal. They did kind of go off with that shit. Man, you guys are making me want to revisit, like, Greek mystery literature. Got me thinking about, like, graded mystical systems. Like, one of the interesting things about the Hekalo literature, the like 4th century Jewish palaces literature, is that it's like, by the way, heaven has like a bureaucracy and an army, and it looks a lot like the Roman military, which, like, that makes a lot of sense, you know. Jewish mystics living in the 4th century probably had some problems with the Romans, and so the idea that, like, heaven had an army that could rival the Roman Empire was a comforting idea. That makes sense to me. I oscillate so much on whether I like degrees or not. It, like, philosophically, I kind of disagree with the idea, but also I think shonen elements to a mystical, like, I think, like, shonen anime-ass elements to mystical ascent literature, like, having something kind of baller like that is also important for the structure of mystical ascent literature. Like, that's the coolest thing about the Palaces literature, is that it's like, there's power rankings, you know? That's why Pseudo-Dionysius the Areopagite is so dope. Like, the rankings of angels and shit, and, like, all their different powers. Like, that's shonen shit. That's, like, shonen power ranking shit, and it rules. I think having a controlled degree of power scaling can be kind of cool. We are talking about heavenly grades, not earthly orders. We're talking, well, they mirror each other, May. Come on now. Obviously, like, that's the point. The earthly bodies mirror the heavenly bodies. Like, how are you going to have an earthly order that doesn't mirror a heavenly order? Gabriel can go Super Saiyan Blue. It's called Super Saiyan God, I believe. It's like, I like it when mystical ascent literature has cool critters in it, like the angels that guard the treasury houses of God, and how they're like, no, that was the wrong password. Rereading Sholem, there's a bit where one of the rabbis who's, like, ascending up the divine hierarchy is, like, talking to an angel, and the angel's like, what's the password? And the rabbi says, like, a long string of Hebrew characters, and the angel's like, hey, that's not the right password. And the rabbi's like, oh, I meant, and then says the correct one. And then he says that, like, there's this great passage where he says, just the feeling of the angel's will being pointed towards him, like, the experience of even being directly noticed by an angel, confronted him with his sheer insignificance in the universe. And he said that, like, I felt as if this guard almost shucked me like a piece of corn, or a piece of wheat. That shit's badass. That's shonen shit. That's awesome. There was a power scaling moment in the Jewish mysticism. That fucking rules. Right? It's fucking badass. I think that's why, that's part of what makes that era of, like, theophany, of, like, God appearing like literature in which God appears or aspects of God appear to people so interesting is like conceptualizing what it is like to be in the physical presence of an aspect of God. It literally fucking Conqueror's hockey. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's anime shit. Yeah, getting shucked off by an angel. I don't think angels can be girls. Or maybe they can. I don't know. They can appear as whatever they like, but they're almost always described as unsexed entities that have no genitals. Surely the angel of girls can be girls. See, that's also my thought, right? Like, but what does it mean for an angel to be a girl in this sense? If an angel has a gender, are they always transgender? I think so. I think any application of gendered language to an angel is inherently like a trans experience of gender for that angel. Because they are fundamentally non-gendered beings. You think the angel of girls isn't allowed to be a girl? Well, why not? What's your argument there? Are the passwords in the Merkava related to the passwords in the Book of the Dead? It's the passwords are from Hechelo. The Merkava is the chariots, shit. Wait, actually, I think they both have passwords. I don't know. The discussion about the gender of angels is like proverbial for a conversation that drags on forever and means nothing. Ah, but we have transfeminist theory now. We can make some headway here. I guess it's like a bee asking what kind of bee you are, or a mushroom asking what kind of mushroom gender you are. I think that's an apt comparison. Why are we not voting anymore? Let me play video games. What were we talking about? Is it like ascent literature or something? I don't know. I like the theophanies in that era of Jewish literature. The God appearings. In revisiting Sholem, I learned that one of the four rabbis that was attempting to ascend to the throne of God, they were like, one of them was like, hey, in the next chamber, there's going to be a pool of purest marble that will appear like a pool of water. And you're going to see it, and it's going to look like water, but it's purest marble. Don't say that it's water or that it looks like water. Don't be tricked by that. And he doesn't really say what's going to happen to you, but like one of the rabbis fails that. Like it's like a booby trap of some sort. And the literal direct translation from the Hebrew is that he went outside of himself. And it's clear that this language refers to some sort of mental collapse or like mental distress. Like when he returned from the treasury houses of God, he was regarded as like a horrible heretic, and there was a sense that he had committed some heresy so profound that he stopped following Jewish law because he knew that there was no way that God would ever forgive him for his trespass. Isn't that fucking fascinating? Isn't that interesting? That shit's crazy, bro. Anyway. It's extremely cool. It's like, no wonder this became the blueprint for every piece of like mystical ascent literature after this, because it's so evocative. It's like, often like, let's be honest here. Sometimes books of Jewish mystical literature can be a little dry. They're a little more on the like speculative philosophical side. They're dense. It's like reading fucking Aristotle's Metaphysics, where it's like seeing a guy try to invent metaphysics from first principles, and he's like bad at it because the language of metaphysics doesn't really exist yet because he's having to like carve it out of rocks. A lot of Jewish mysticism can kind of read like that. Not the Hechelo literature. It's like, it literally reads like adventure literature. It reads like literature rather than mythology. There's a story to it. There's drama, and that's what makes it so compelling for me. It's why it's some of my favorite esoterica that's ever been written. And the heretic might have pulled out the plants from the Garden of Heaven. Yeah, it's like we don't know what he did. Whatever the plants in the Pardes are. Yeah, the whatever the plants in the Pardes is the, like, okay, you have the treasury houses of God, the palace of heaven, but then outside of it there's a little garden called the Pardes, which is kind of like a lobby. It's not quite heaven, but it's not quite earth. And the Pardes, it's also a garden that's outside of a lot of Jewish temples. Like as you walk towards the temple, you walk through a little garden. The Pardes of heaven is like one of the central images of Jewish mysticism, and it comes from the Hechelo literature. There's a book this shit comes from, and I can't remember the name of it. Been trying to remember it for the last hour and a half, and I can't because I'm a fake hack occultist. Hechelo. I'll write it in chat. Of course. Interesting shit. Dr. Justin Sledge as Esoterica on YouTube is like your go-to introduction for this shit. If you need a guide to complex parts of Jewish mysticism, Dr. Sledge is your man. Makes me wonder what the plants are. Are the siblings of the Tree of Life and the Tree of Good and Evil? I mean, presumably, right? Like, is it like a Noah's Flood type deal? Where, like, did the Garden of Eden have its own plants that were, like, way more badass than the fallen and shitty plants that we have now? Like, when Gabriel purified the garden, when Michael purified the garden, like, was he, like, exterminating plants that we don't have anymore? That makes me sad. I don't like that idea. Was Eden in the Pardes? I don't know. You know, I imagine that Eden would have been patterned off of the Pardes. Maybe the Pardes is the heavenly garden that the earthly paradise of the Garden of Eden was based upon. Oh, wrong way. I'm explaining it badly, but the idea was that the concept of other people living outside of Australia was so out of their experience that they are just unable to see it. So it makes me think of being able to see something until you understand it conceptually. Interesting. If you can find a source for that, I'd be interested in that. The religious beliefs of Australian Aboriginal peoples are always something that's been interesting to me, but I have never found, like, a good inroad with that. If Michael and Gabriel fought, who would win? Oh, Michael. He's the sword angel. Gabriel's just the herald. Also, welcome to chat, Wireframe Wife. That's an excellent name. Yeah, no one ever asks if... Nobody ever seems to ask if... Wait, no. I got it. I never considered that Wire Mother might have a husband. I might be a bad person. So, like, our plants of the shadows of the plants in the Pardes? I think so. Maybe. The legend of Aboriginal people being unable to see ships because they didn't fit their reality has been a staple of the New Age. It's obviously kind of made up. Yeah, that seems made up. Is there a cup angel, coin angel, staff angel? I mean, presumably. Apocalyptic Finn. Hello, welcome to chat. When it comes to indigenous beliefs, I try to dig more into the Ainu stuff. It's been collecting for a while. Keep collecting papers and stuff when I find it, though. Yeah. Another thing that I haven't really looked into. I know for a fact that if once I dip my toe into Eastern mysticism, I will really enjoy it, and I will get distracted, and I'll want to write about it. So I am trying to finish my damn book first. It'll happen. It'll happen soon. Probably going to do some editing on that shit this weekend. But the ball is in my editor's court, so I've been working on Sick Stomach Murder in the meantime. And you guys voted. You guys voted to be patient gamers and wait until I completely finish it and polish it to release it. So, do that I will. I appreciate your patience. And, I appreciate your patience and, all that shit. And hey, in the meantime, if you want to join my Patreon, because this stream is brought to us by generous viewers like you. If you want to join my Patreon, maybe throw me a Twitch sub, it goes a long way. Also, welcome to chat, Emily Shoots 120. Wait, the real cryptotheism Tumblr user? I mean, presumably. Where else would you learn about this stream from? I'm curious. I assume that people find this stream... Oh. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for your subscription. I appreciate that a lot. I'm glad you guys are having fun. Oh, you think it might be Twitch's recommended algorithm? That makes sense. I have been streaming more. I'm probably getting a little bit into that Tumblr Sphere algorithm. This is an unrelated cryptotheism. It's a common name. Yeah, exactly. No joke, I see you all the time on my dash, but I actually got suggested to you in the live channels section on Twitch. How fun! Well, welcome to the chat. I appreciate you dropping in. We're talking about we're talking about the heavenly garden of Jewish mysticism, the Pardes, and its relationship to the earthly Garden of Eden. The cryptotheism multimedia empire, indeed. The CT Everywhere system is slowly coming online. Soon I will be everywhere. The CTE, the CT Cinematic Universe, the CTCU. Stretching my shoulder blades. I have been trying to CTC me. I do see you, bun. I have been trying to branch out more, post more on Blue Sky and shit. I used to post a lot more on Twitter, but it's just like, just makes my head hurt. I have people that like report back to me from Twitter. I just can't handle being on that fucking website anymore. Make sure you don't say any stupid shit. I will not. I will never do this. Yeah, my Twitter frumentari are reporting back to me from the fringes of the Empire. I will say I have been having a lot of fun writing Sick Stomach Murder. It's fun to plan something out more in advance. It's fun to have like characters that I can cook a little more. As much as I love writing things as a serial, this has been really fun.
Watch out. I'm detecting void fissures nearby. Do you have a matching relic?
I do still kind of feel bad for not finishing Emerald Seas. As much as I enjoyed writing it, but it's like I kept running into the problem of, like, if I wanted to finish the story the way that I wanted, with all the plot beats that I wanted to hit, I realized it would have taken me, like, 5 more years. And it wouldn't be the story that I wanted it to be. I don't think 87 is saying like enough. Genuine opinion. Well, she's, in my head, she's a combination of Columbo and like Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. It's something for when I'm older, indeed. I will say, if any of, speaking of the story I wanted to tell with, I wanted to tell with Emerald Seas, do you guys want to hear my thoughts on the story? It's been a while, and I think you guys all know that I'm not going to be returning to it anytime soon, so do you want to know what I was going for? If you want to allow it to be a mystery, that's totally fine. Yep, R.I.P. Emerald Seas. You were a victim of my own literary hubris. I kind of realized that I needed... It's like, okay, I needed Marin... It was going to end as a tragedy. I needed... Like... There were only 2 places that I could take Marin's character. Either he could learn to be a good shaft diver and kind of grow as a person, or he couldn't, right? He could remain himself. And I realized about 30% of the way through writing his character that he should never be allowed to grow. He's not allowed to, like, he can try to learn the sword, but he has to fail. He has to fail, and he has to die. I was going to end, effectively... Whoa, where are we? It's like, it was going to end effectively with Marin failing to rise to the challenge, and the final 20%, like, the falling action of the book would effectively be Kip carrying his corpse out of Tel Tavares. Also, the final sister, the one that was dragging Marin into the city, I was going to have her be sort of already dead. Just sort of a sort of plugged-in impulse that was constantly attempting to collect power from beyond the city. But if I wanted to tell her story properly, there was a lot of setup that I needed to do that would take a long time. And so elements of the story got recycled and put into Sick Stomach Murder, which we'll hear about later. I also think it was the right decision to kind of mercy kill the story. I recently finished Hades 2, and I was so upset with it that I uninstalled the game. Like, I felt kind of cheated by Hades 2, and realized that the game needed so much more time in the oven to measure up to Hades 1, and I was like, maybe I should lock this shit down. Maybe I should, like, keep the shit into the oven until it's truly ready, and then give my audience something that, like, is up to snuff. That is, like, a true sequel to, like, something that actually shows growth from Amber Skies. And I think that's the right decision. You don't want spoilers? No spoilers. I just did not like the ending. They almost cooked. They almost cooked in so many ways. I don't know. I think it's abundantly clear that they started writing the story without any idea of how it was going to end. I don't want to. I don't want to like. If you enjoy the game, that's fine. I hope you do. I hope you enjoy it more than me. I did not like the ending. I did not mind the ending of Hades 1. I thought it was, like, acceptable. People are like, you know, you forgive your abusive dad rather quick. I was like, personally, I felt like that was at least a little bit tempered by the fact that the entire game is about beating the shit out of your abusive dad. Maybe his face turn could have been telegraphed a little bit more, although the game is fundamentally based around you beating the shit out of your dad, which I think is okay. Yeah, I hope Supergiant goes back to making, like, non-Greek myth stuff. Their non-Greek myth stuff is, like, way more interesting. They've like, fucking Bastion and Transistor and Pyre were all very good. I also found Hades 1 more mechanically fun. I just liked playing it more. They've mined Daniel Ogden enough. Exactly. There's only so much. Only so far that we can go. Yeah, Pyre is like a much more interesting take on mythology, in my opinion. What is happening in here? Okay, good. Yay. It is. It's weird as hell in a way that I enjoy. And it has that whole thing about, like, the relationship between an author and its story in an interesting way. Like, it's cool. I liked it. I would like to return to, like, part of what I liked about writing Amber Skies was the non-linear aspect of it. That's an aspect of storytelling that I always really enjoy when it's done well. Like, I think sloppy non-linear storytelling is one of the most annoying things to encounter, but when it's done well, oh baby, that's some good shit right there. It's something I want to get a little more experimental with. Once I have the time for that sort of thing. Would you ever consider doing an anthology? Every time I consider doing an anthology, it always ends up, I'm like, well, the stories have to be related in some rewarding way. I had an idea of something set in the Amber Skies universe that was like, because I have a lot of notes, I have a lot of interesting notes for, like, the metallurgy and martial arts and military history, like history of particular techniques within rigged martial arts. I feel like it would be really fun to do an anthology about those topics where it's like an extended history of a single blow. Like some turning point in history where some guy hit another guy with a weapon, and it just goes into, like, extensive anthology history of, like, the history of the development of the meals that both of them ate for breakfast and how that affected the strike, and the history of the metallurgy that goes into their armor, and the conflicts between the different design philosophies that went into the armor and the personalities that clashed within them, having, like, personalities and tragedies around the craftspeople that designed these, like, elements that were then historically expressed in this single decisive strike. Something along those lines. SBCDH is cooking. Like, it's on the back burner. That entire universe is, like, that entire setting is on a slow burner. It's slowly accruing elements that I think are really good for anthology storytelling, but it's like it's still too similar to SCP shit in my mind. Like, The definition of cool is a 70-30 split between shit you already know and new shit. And it's still at, like morphologically, in the sense of form, it is still a little too similar to SCP shit in my head. What is Amber Skies about? It's about how apocalypses are impossible. It's about how the more things change, the more things stay the same. And humanity is a constant of the universe that cannot change. The idea of transhumanism is itself an illusion. Nothing can transcend humanity because its nature is to transcend. So it's like, okay, for SBCDH, for the San Bernardino Department of Hypnoeconomics, for that setting, it needs like just a little more sauce. Not over much, but it needs like it hasn't found its core yet. It has a lot of structural elements, but there isn't a philosophical core to it. There isn't a statement I'm trying to make. And I think I won't find that statement until I read all of Marx. I need to get really into leftist economics before I'm able to make a coherent statement about it. Yeah, because what it is, it's fundamentally neoliberal horror. Have you read Debord? I haven't. I need to. There's a lot of shit that I need to read. No, I don't want it. No, Chimera. It's like, I think in the mind of every aspiring writer, there is an SCP author, and I think that energy needs to be nurtured and then transcended. Like, I think literary culture, I think popular culture as well, has kind of moved past the desire for SCP, and the desire to structure things like an SCP article is kind of a comfortable normal that we need to break out of. Holy fuck, Wizard Friday. Hi, Sanity. Exactly. It's like SCP shit it's like the treadmill of horror is that the most interesting shit is always the new shit and people talking about the new shit and iterating on the new shit. And unfortunately, the more you do that, the more normative it becomes. SCP shit has become normative, and we need to find fresh takes on it. And I think part of that is like a sort of gradual return to more straightforwards, it's just like a straightforward horror narrative. Good old fucking Frankenstein. Give me a good epistolary horror these days. That'd be fun. Yeah, it's an inherently subversive genre. Like, the horror by its nature deals with the unexpected and the taboo. And so you can only iterate on a theme so often. Yes, yeah, Frankenstein is epistolary. That's what I'm saying. It's like, we haven't had a good epistolary horror in a while. Did we ever find the exact difference between Hekalo and Merkava texts? Oh yeah, no, that's not that. It's the Hekalo texts deal with it's ascension literature. It's progression. Like it is progression up through the divine palaces, and then the Merkava mysticism is the chariots literature. It is about inner experiences. That's why Halloween isn't scary. You know what day it's on. Exactly. They ought to change that shit up every year. Spring it on people. There needs to be an element of surprise to Halloween. One year maybe it's Dracula's. One year maybe it's mummies. Maybe 1 year it's wolfmen. There needs to be a new Halloween danger every year at a different time. They, them Frankensteins. Exactly. Switch up their genders. Maybe female Draculas. Maybe Swamp Thing is bald 1 year. I don't know. If I know what it is going into it, it's not going to be as scary. Yeah, non-binary Frankensteins, non-binary Wolfmen, non-binary Draculas, non-binary Invisibles Man. What's the philosophy for tonight? Oh, we've been talking about mystical ascent literature. I've been talking about my own writing. Non-binary Swamp Things. All new takes. Yeah, half of SCP isn't horror these days, but also, like, it kind of hasn't ever been. Like, people talk about, like, oh, SCP is just, like, it's just, like, stupid OCs now, as if, like, one of the first, like, 100 SCPs was, like, was not, like, this is Kane, he has badass shadow weapons, and we keep him in a vault under the ocean. Like, don't pretend like it was ever a pure thing. Spooky witches stirring a big cauldron. That is non-binary, as in the liquid itself is non-binary. Abel was the badass shadow weapon one. Whatever. Exactly. So I'm trying to resist the urge to do SCP but differently. I think San Bernardino Department of Hypnoeconomics has the legs to be an actual literary novel. Maybe that's what I'll write next after I finish this one. Yeah, the guy who made the whole fake Finno-Urget culture, that shit rules. Doing Red Vern shit to SCP is so funny, you can just go look at it. That's fucking true. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's about time we wrap up for this evening. Hey, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. And hey, if you feel like joining up with our Patreon, I rely on the support of viewers like you. Absolutely no pressure. I will catch you next week. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good night. Bye!